welcome to the Drinks Break show. And let me tell you that in this particular video, this is important for all those who think that they want to be a sports director, they think they can become a sports director, or if you have never heard of this career option, it's never occurred to you, but this intrigues you, then this is what you've got to watch. Because I'm joined by Hemant Buch, who has more than 25 years of experience as a sports director, producer. Also, he's held various leadership positions in various sports, media and broadcasting houses. And I've had the privilege of working with him only once. Only once. And I have to tell you that in that particular experience, even though I remember you came to me, this was the Abu Dhabi T10, you came to me and said that, next time we work together, we'll interact more. But I have to tell you that little period of interaction, you were in my ear, I realized that this is probably one of the finest directors I've worked with in my tenure of working in sports broadcasting. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Ridhima. That's very kind of you. But I'm sure as you work more and more in sports, you'll work with many fine directors. So it's nice of you to say so. Thank you so much.
But let me tell you, you hold that reputation across. Every time I say your name, people have a certain amount of respect for you. And I don't know if I'm sure you're already aware of this, but if somebody has actually come and told you this, I have to tell you this, that you hold that kind of reputation in the industry for sure.
Thank you so much. That's really nice of you to say so. And yeah, very kind of whoever has said nice things about me. I'm very grateful.
Now, Hemant, I have always thought of sports directors as puppet masters. आप लोग strings ऊपर नीचे करते हो और हम सर हिलाते हैं and everybody else is working on your command. How did you become a sports director, especially in a time where probably this career option did not even, exist in middle class families at least, because I grew up in a middle class family where engineering, doctor, and probably a CA was the thing. How did you become a sports director?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was the path of least resistance because, again, yes, in my family, everybody was an IAS officer, so I'm probably the black sheep of the family in that sense. My father, his brothers, my aunt, everybody was an IAS officer. But yeah, the good thing was that nobody ever put any pressure on me to sort of follow their chosen path. They allowed me to do what I wanted, and I always loved sport. I I played sport to a high level, but I wasn't hardworking enough to sort of follow through on it. I didn't think while I wanted to, I really couldn't be bothered to work that hard. So yeah, I mean that was never going to be something that would reach that stage where I would make money out of it. At that time, there was not that much money in sport either. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to get involved with sport, and the only way to do it was through journalism. And I started in journalism. It was again a sort of accident because I'd never written anything in my life, and I just submitted a couple of pieces, and they said, "Okay, you can join next week," and I joined. And yeah, after that, because there was not much money in sports journalism then, I don't think there is that much now either. But at that time, I was earning about 1,700 rupees a month, so it was not going to take me very far. But yeah, that time television was just starting, and I was thinking that television, the salaries were also good. I was wondering whether I would get a chance, somehow. And yeah, the week I thought about it, somebody came into our office and whispered in my ear, would you like to join the television channel that I work for, because I need a sports reporter and you would fit the bill. So yeah, I mean, I got a six-fold salary jump and went into television, and that channel didn't last very long, but it was in the same building as an organization called IMGTWI, which was covering all the cricket in India at that point. And as this organization was folding up, a friend of mine was working for TWI, and he sort of met me downstairs and said, "Oh, you here? Would you like to come and join us?" I said, "Wow, that's great because this is folding up very soon." So just as this was folding up, TWI sort of took hold, and I got into I got into that. I started with directing domestic cricket, but then I became a producer because that was where most people sort of start out. And again, it wasn't until much later when I was at 10 Sports in Dubai that they decided that these foreign directors were too expensive and they wanted somebody from India. And could I think of somebody? And I said, okay, I'll give it a go. Why not? And that's how I started. So it was all very, very accidental. It was not something which I had deeply thought about, but yeah, it sort of came about and it worked out okay.
It worked out beautifully, and that's the thing that every person you talk to in the broadcasting industry, whether it's an anchor, presenter, a director, producer, they happen to fall upon their career by chance, and it happened and it unfolded into various things because there is no formal path of getting into this career. But Hemant, if we have to explain it to the audience, a day in a sports director's life, if we can give them a visual representation of what it looks like. For example, I've done that many times. For an anchor, it is if you're doing studio anchoring, आप पहले से पढ़ के आते हैं, उसके बाद जब आप स्टूडियो पहुंचते हैं, आपको आपके प्रोड्यूसर डायरेक्टर जो है एक रन ऑर्डर देते हैं, आप रन ऑर्डर बैठ के सुनते हैं और पढ़ते हैं, और उसके बाद आप जब स्टूडियो में जाते हैं, then we do a tech check, and a lot of people don't understand the importance of the in-ear. So if you had to give a visual representation of a day in a sports director's life, if you could just explain it to our audience.
Well, it all depends upon what you're doing. Let's suppose it's a test match, for example, and let's also suppose that you're doing it in golf because it's my favorite place to do test cricket. That's in Sri Lanka, beautiful place, but the hotels are a long way away generally from the ground. So if the match is starting at 10 o'clock and you're going on air at say 9:30, then you have to start from your hotel around 7 o'clock because you got to get to the ground early. You got to start your preps. You got to sort of work on recording the pitch report, recording interviews, doing some pieces, editing some stuff. So you start nice and early. You get to the ground. You start work early. You get your commentators in, and before they are in, you'd have done a tech check to see everything is working. What usually happens is that you check everything. It's running the night before, and then when you come in the next day, it might have rained and the cables would have gotten faulty, and then you've got to change all the cables. Something won't work. For example, if there is, audio, there might be a crackle suddenly, the mics don't work. So it is what they call, Murphy's Law, that whatever has to go wrong generally does go wrong. So
Yeah.
you got to check everything every day. And for that, you need to come in, about 2 hours ahead of schedule and start prepping. Again, it depends on different events. If it's a T20, and generally these days T20 leagues are double headers, then again you come in nice and early. You reach the ground, and before that, of course, you would have done all your prep. You would have met the commentators in the morning at breakfast. A test match doesn't give you that luxury because the commentators don't get up to meet you at 6:30 in the morning because they've got a later call time. They don't need to be there earlier. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of checks, lots of prep that goes on, and then when you get to the ground, that's when the real hard work starts because you record your stuff, then once you're at your panel, you can't get up. You have to watch every single ball, every single moment, and that in itself is actually a huge task. You need a lot of concentration. You can't let it waver, and you can't miss a ball. If you're a commentator, you get a break after every 20 minutes or so, and you can do your stuff. Here you can't. You don't get a break. It's constant. You're working all the time, and if you miss a ball, then there is hell to pay. There are penalties for missing a ball. Like in England, if you miss a goal, then the production house has to pay a lot of money to the broadcaster. So that's the sort of stuff that goes on. So yeah, it is kind of tough. And again, while you're working, when everything's working well, that's okay. But sometimes the vision desk goes down. Sometimes the audio desk goes down, and you have to find workarounds. and that's also very tough. You know, sometimes you're doing studio, and you'd have gone through this if you're doing studio and the lights go off.
Oh, yes,
Then you have to find a way to cut pictures, of the crowd of stuff around, and yet have you guys keeping on talking. Put up graphics, put up other stuff, which so that you guys are not in vision, and you got to think on the fly. It's all very well and good having a running order, but the running order goes out of the window when something unexpected happens. And in my experience, something unexpected always happens.
indeed. Because that's what live broadcasting is. But more so, I have to tell you that, sir, I had a friend who was visiting me during a kabaddi production. It was live, and I got permissions to show her the PCR. And when she saw the production control room, for all those who don't know what a PCR is, when she saw it, she asked me, "Are you going to launch a spaceship?" Because it looks like that. So many televisions is wiring everybody and all of that. Now, while you did explain to us that, what it's like and the kind of challenges that you face on a live broadcasting day, on a day when you have to roll a match. But what about when you are inside the PCR and the number of people you're giving directions to? You've got your graphics guy, you've got your anchor, you've got your commentator, you've got your camera guys. Tell us a bit about the number of people who are working on it.
So again, it depends upon the production, but yeah, if it's a largish production, then at any point in time you've got about 75 to 100 people listening to you at each point in time, and also a lot of them talking to you at the same time. So you've got to sort of listen and talk at the same time. You've got to make sure that people know the etiquettes of broadcasting as well, and you've got to keep reminding them. For example, if my replay operator is calling out the replays, then at that point, if somebody talks to me, it's difficult because I've got to mix from one replay to the other, and I've got to mix at just the right time. So, for example, if I'm taking the edge from one angle and the catch from another angle, I've got to mix at the right time. So I can't have anybody talking to me at the same time as he's talking. So a lot of times you find commentators, asking for stuff when the replay is on, and you got to tell them to shut up and get back to them later. If there's a producer who talks to you during that time, you tell them shut up right now. We'll come back to you. So yeah, it is much as I'm talking to all these guys. All these guys also have to talk to me. The cameraman might need to tell me something. The floor manager might need to tell me something. The producer might need to tell me something. Graphics might need to tell me something. EVS might need to tell me something. So, and commentators obviously always need to tell me something. So, and at the same time, the commentary is on, and so you're listening to commentary as well. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on, and yeah, you got to filter out the noise and concentrate on the important stuff at that particular point in time.
Indeed. So, I mean, obviously you've just gotten a little bit of a glimpse of what it is like, but I have to tell you that, when I was watching The Last Dance, Michael Jordan's, the documentary on him, one of the things that they said about him is that, the man really lives in the moment, and that's the reason why he became so great. And my mind is like, no, 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 no. It's a sports director who really lives in the moment is because he's listening to 10,000 voices at the same time while he's trying to roll a show. I find that highly, highly strenuous. At the same time, you have to have a certain level of IQ and intelligence to do that. But for you, what has been the most challenging part of this job?
Well, the challenging part of the job is to me, you got to adapt when something goes wrong. When everything is right, your experience means that you handle it. It's how you deal with a crisis that really sort of takes tells you how good the director is. For example, in the Women's World Cup. I, there was a situation where I had gone for one role and I was asked to do another role because there was a lot of COVID around, and finally I ended up doing the semi-final. It was Australia versus West Indies, and it was in Wellington, in New Zealand, and just as we had finished the studio part of the thing, and we're going on air for the world feed, as soon as we're going to go on air for the anthems, all the monitors went down except for the main monitor where I could see the final output. So I couldn't see any cameras, I couldn't see any replays, I couldn't see anything. There was just that one monitor. Everybody started panicking, and the anthem was about to go on. So I had this I cut a wide shot, so I knew where they were going. And I told the cameraman, just tell me what shot you have. I mean, you have a, just tell me close up of captain, just tell me close up of flag, just tell me wide, wide of West Indies, wide of the ball kids, and I will cut accordingly. So yeah, it was down for about 7 or 8 minutes, and I had no no visuals. But yeah, we managed it. Nobody realized that it had gone down. About after 7 8 minutes, we got the other monitors back working, and then the engineer said, why do you need so many monitors? You're managing fine without any monitors. So yeah, I mean that those sort of stuff, those sort of things are where your metal is tested. You need to be cool and calm. You may be stressed out inside, but you can't let it show. Also, if you get stressed out and it affects your thinking, then you're in trouble. You always got to find a way to do this, whether or not it is ideal or not. You can always work out later, but at that point in time, you need to work on a solution rather than thinking of where the problem lies. So yeah, that's the most challenging part: thinking on your feet and dealing with crises, which happens all the time.
All that. All right. So the fact that you have, been in the industry for 25 years, and the fact that as a part of your job and as a part of your interest, you've seen ball to ball and you've seen so much cricket. Tell me, which match have you truly enjoyed and has really stuck to your heart that you worked on? And like, this is beautiful.
Well, I mean, after having done so many matches, it's hard to really think of one match, but because each situation sort of evolves and each situation becomes different, and you remember many different matches. But to me, this tour, Australia touring Sri Lanka recently, was the most memorable. It is something which should have had a documentary done on it, because there was this unrest going on. There was no fuel on the island. There were actually, when we were doing that test match in Gaul, there were protests about 15 feet away from us, and the protesters said, "Don't worry, we're not going to harm you." The Australian team was told they were not going to be harmed, but there was chanting. There were people up on the golf fort with anti-government slogans and stuff, which we had to avoid showing. All sorts of stuff that was happening around. I mean, and yet that tour was so memorable. We had some great matches. Sri Lanka ended up splitting the test matches. They won a great test match in Gaul after having lost the first one really badly. They played beautifully in the limited overs games. They sort of I mean, they ended up even, basically. Australia and Sri Lanka, they I think Sri Lanka won the T20s and Australia won the ODIs 2-1, 2-1, and the test matches were split 1-1. And Dasun Shanaka played a great knock in one of the T20s. And even if there was no fuel, there was nothing on the island. People were unhappy. The crowds were there in their numbers. There were kids crying. When Sri Lanka won, it was immense. It was the emotion.
Right.
Just the backdrop, and in front of which this series was played. I don't think there will ever be anything like this in my life, or for that matter anyone else's life, because I mean, you don't want anybody to go through that hardship. But yeah, I mean, there was so much turmoil, and yet out of that emerged something so beautiful, and gave these people something to cheer for, something to remember for a lifetime.
Yep, there was a lot of news that was coming around that people would, of course, people had an idea of what was going on. But was there any BTS shot? Is there a documentary that is being shot or anything like that?
No, there was no documentary shot, unfortunately, not that I know of.
Okay.
Because we were there for what we were doing, and we didn't have the wherewithal to shoot that. And since we work for the board, it's the politics of it sort of is not in our ambit. It much as we want to be involved with all that is going on in the world and be be part of history. It's yeah, sadly, I mean, there is one part of you that really wants to uh, be a journalist and capture all that is happening, but you're there in another capacity, and you got your hands full with that as well. So yeah, it's a
Yeah,
little difficult.
yeah. But kudos to Sri Lanka. Hemant, you've worked for so long. You've seen this industry grow. You've seen, the problems, the greatness of the industry, and the greatness of the sport. What do you think in the near future should happen in sports broadcasting in order to make the experience of cricket even better?
I don't know what should happen to make the experience even better, but I feel very strongly about this, and I don't know whether this is what you want to hear, but I think that um, this industry has been sort of taken for granted for a long time, in the sense that the technicians who work in this industry are the ones who make it shine. But I just read a post on LinkedIn from a guy, a veteran, said the salaries have only gone down in the last 15 years. The wages have only gone down in the last 15 years, not up. And each time, people sort of come in with a production. They say we have no budget, so please work for less. So I think if that changes, people might put more heart into what they're doing. People do work really hard, but they work constantly in these days of these T10 leagues. You remember we were doing 4 matches a day. And in T20 leagues, you do sometimes two, sometimes 3 matches a day, and when people are working that hard to either not get paid at all sometimes, or get paid very little, doesn't really sit well with me. It is something that the industry needs to work long and hard. But I guess you're talking more about the visual experience. The visual experience is pretty good at this point in time, and it will keep evolving with the way technology develops. But again, eventually it depends upon budgets. It is they say ना कि जितना घी चाहिए उंगली टेढ़ी करोगे तो घी मिलेगा उतना. तो you have to spend money to get quality production. And you see some boards have got massive budgets, and you see lots of cameras and lots of tools in it, Hawkeye, Spider Cam, Buggy, all of that, and it looks really, really good. And yet some other boards don't have the wherewithal, some other leagues don't have the wherewithal, so it doesn't look as good. It is a simple fact of the matter. The more money you put in, the better it will look. You have high quality players playing, but if the production looks bad, the commentary is bad, then people won't like it as much. If you've got high end production, high end commentary, people will like the experience. So it's that. After that, you can keep adding whatever you want to it, and things will keep getting added as we sort of move on. Through technology, it will keep on improving.
Yeah. No, but not just from the visual experience point of view. The fact that you got that point out is very, very important. I'm glad you said that because it is really the truth. I also speak to a couple of people, and sometimes they go like, "Well, if this production's dicey, they might not pay at all. Forget about paying on time." And that's really, in a place like sports where ethics and discipline and everything is it's exactly where it's all surrounded. It's very hard to hear something like that. But having said that, if there is a youngster out there who's watching this and wants to be a sports director, Hemant, what would your advice to that youngster be?
Well, it's there is no easy route to this. You need to love what you're doing, and you need to be able to sort of uh, move up slowly. You have to go through the ranks to get to a certain stage. And again, you may enjoy doing something, you may not enjoy doing something. So you may enjoy doing graphics you may enjoy doing, marketing you may enjoy doing, anything. I mean, lots of people I talk to say this is not what I would like to do because either it is too stressful or it is, you're just putting together stuff like you're doing, some in an orchestra. Somebody might like to play the violin, but
Yeah,
the conductor of the orchestra doesn't play anything. He just waves a wand. So it's like that. So if you like this, then yes, you got to gain a holistic knowledge, and then you start working through smaller productions, and slowly, you can get into big time directing. There's a lot of luck involved as well. You got to be in the right place at the right time. Somebody needs to give you a break, and then somebody needs to recognize that you're good or not. So all that is there, but I think that there is no place I'd rather be, because I go and watch matches in the ground, and I get bored after half an hour, 45 minutes, because I don't have all these angles with me. At the ground, you go, somebody is bored, you haven't seen it, then you just miss it, it's gone. With this, I have, one, I can't miss it because I've got to concentrate, and two, I've got, you know 20 angles to then go back to, and decide which one is best, so I can see exactly how the guy was bowled. So
yeah.
so yeah, I mean, there is so much to be said for it. So this is, to me, it's the best seat in the house, and yeah, there's nowhere else I'd rather be.
Oh, well, I have to tell you that most people who are working in sports, I look at, when I see a PCR, I go like, it's such a small place sometimes, and there is no light coming in, and they are hooked. They are hooked to that television screen where they're watching the match, and it's insane amount of hard work. From the side angle, it will look like, wow, they're traveling to such exotic places, but they are not. It's cold, it's rainy, it's windy, and there you are trying to, put up a good show for everybody. And kudos to everybody who's working in it. It is a definitely passion driven industry, because there is no other way you can climb this industry if you're not passionate about it. So thank you so much, Hemant, for telling us a little about your job. It's just a glimpse. And if you guys like it, if you guys like what he's spoken about, we could probably dig deeper. But for that, you need to write in the comment section what would you like to know. Thank you, Hemant, for the time, though.
Cheers, take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.